Okay, I'm going to continue what I'm reading. Let's see what happens, considering they're both reincarnations. What are they going to talk about? Interlude 3, Glenn and Royce. Going back in time a bit. Miss Micah the foxwoman, who is both a chef and Royce's envoy, headed to the kitchen, and Chelsea followed to help. While they were gone, Royce and I talked about things we didn't want them hearing. Elle had told me that it'd been a while since he'd met another reincarnator, so I knew there had to be others, but I never expected to meet one, I said. You'd be the 6th one I've met in all my years. It seems we appear every century or so. You said you'd been ruling for 100 years, didn't you? Yeah. Spent my first 500 or so wandering, then I became the emperor because I was so bored. Once I had fun treating it like a town-building game. Before I knew it, it had been 100 years, Roy said with a smirk. Of course he did. So he was a gamer before, if he's talking about it like that. I'm smelling some things I sorely missed from the kitchen. Is Miss Micah making Japanese food? Yep, I picked her up while I was wandering, and even eventually when she awakened to the cooking skill, I taught her everything I knew. Now she can make all the Japanese, Chinese, and Western meals from our past lives. So that's where the medicinal cooking stuff came from. By eating that, I kept myself going. No beast man ever thought of eating such things. They're all muscle brains thinking they're fine just eating salted meat. So the current emperor is a muscle brain too, huh? He sighed deeply when I said that. I kept watch and gave him some advice for a while, but when my illness got worse, so did his attitude. Before I knew it, I'd been exiled. He must have thought he could do it all without you. Yep. That fake fortune teller was always with him, giving him advice. That probably made him think that. When I used my sage level appraisal on him, I was shocked to see that his class was swindler. Now that I think about it, there was something else weird there, he said, looking into the distance as he remembered. He had also had Worshipper of the Proxy, driven by envy as a second class with Blessing Ash of the Spirit Tree of Origin showing. I ran out of mana in class while I was trying to read the Ash's effect, so I don't know anything else, but I wonder what it meant. Well, once you get to the capital, you can check that yourself. There are way too many words I'm interested in there, I said confused. I don't even know where to start. Who is the Proxy? You know that many gods created the world back in the age of mythology, right? I nodded. The gods created the world, but the Proxy and Spirit King were the ones who brought it to prosperity. That was what was written in the text I could read once I became emperor. I immediately looked over to the King of Spirits temporary kitten form, asking, really? Elle was looking down, but he nodded. There were various races in the world that the gods created, but nothing else. She and I worked tirelessly to make the world richer. So the Proxy was a woman. Is she still in this world? I do not know. I did not have a contract with her, so I cannot sense her location. You helped her without making a contract, huh? Muttered Royce. Elle lifted his head, blinking. Now that you mention it, that's true. I used my power to help her without ever making a contract. She was someone whose happiness made you want to lend your assistance. How strange. I'm kind of theorizing here, but since we don't know the Proxy's location and he never made a contract with her, he can't tell. Is Chelsea a reincarnated Proxy? That would be interesting if that was the case. I'm going to kind of keep that in the back of my mind for now. After muttering that, he curled up on top of the box and fell asleep, seemingly telling us he couldn't say anything more. Changing the subject here, but Chelsea's skill is really something. Yeah, it'd be easy for her to destroy the world. If she made a charm seed or something, she could take it over. I froze at his suggestion. I hadn't thought about that. And if she handed out seeds that could endlessly produce food while Rodzil is still in a famine, she might even be made a saint. I had thought of that, so I nodded. She'd promised to always talk to me before making seeds and never to make any bad ones, but I don't know how far it'd go. That's why I wanted to marry her, jokingly. But she'd be under my protection here. It's true, but just being under the King of Chronowise's brother's protection wouldn't really mean much to other countries. Royce smirked. The necklace I just gave her has my crest carved into it. Okay, so... No. You don't mean proof of her engagement. No, proof that I'm her guardian. Oh, it scared me for a second there, dude. Don't be pulling that here. Because Glenn would smack you for that and rip it off her neck, claiming that, yeah, this is not a good thing. Micah has the same one. Ask her later if you're worried. I nodded despite not fully believing him. Yeah, and headed to the kitchen where the girls were. If you're that worried, you should just propose yourself. I pretended I didn't hear what he muttered. Yeah, I kind of got spoiled on something, in the books when I was reading the descriptions. You know, when I was looking through all the books in the series, I was kind of, reading the descriptions of others, and Yeah, this is got spoiled. Power is justice. The next morning, after eating the breakfast that Miss Micah made for us, we headed for the capital of Rodzul. I thought we'd be taking a carriage, but Lord Roy said he'd turn into a dragon and carry us there. I did a lot of freight carrying before I became emperor, he explained, pulling a horseless 10-seat carriage from his item box. Damn, dude! Why are you carrying a carriage in your item box? Why? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was recording because I didn't want to start this and then find out I wasn't even recording, because that would suck. Apparently, we couldn't bring horses because they'd be scared. Before changing forms, he warned, I'm going to transform, but don't get too surprised, okay? He had a long, snake-like body, a mane like a horse, and legs in the same spot as a lizard. I'd never seen anything like it. The dragons in fairy tales had big wings. So you're an Eastern-style dragon instead of Western, huh? Said Lord Glenn. Lord Royce smirked. I'm the only dragon man who looks like this. Everyone is amazed because I can fly without wings. Huh? You can fly? I asked, shocked, only to get a strong nod in return. Come on, hop in. Lord Glenn, Miss Micah, and I, plus the 4 guardian knights, the box holding the cutting, and Elle on top of it, had all piled into the carriage. Lord Royce picked it up with us inside, placed it on his palm, and flew up into the sky. It was so strange how we were in a carriage, but we weren't shaking. You could see the clouds, Miss Micah pointed out. I looked out the little window and saw that there were a bunch of white clouds floating in the blue sky. So we're high enough to be at the same level as the clouds we usually look up at. Looking down, the trees on the mountains were withered, turned brown and yellow. You could also see a light dark-colored mist covering the ground. The same dark-colored mist was also floating around the fields in the distance, so everything there must have been dead too. There were also some people walking around, but just the immediate area around them didn't have any dark mist. Everyone carries around the spirit tree shard, but the area of effect keeping the miasma away is really small, Miss Micah explained, pulling out her own shard. A shard this tiny can only protect Micah. The knights beside me wouldn't get any protection. The knights balked at her words, so essentially it's your immediate personal bubble, essentially, that gets protected. The knights balked at her words. None of us had spirit tree shards. Won't we be consumed by the miasma once we land? Though there is a cutting here as well, I've given you a spirit tree bracelet. That should repel the miasma of a space around the size of this dragon. That was about the size of Lord Royce's home. I looked at the bracelet on my wrist when Elle mentioned it, and it sparkled. But apparently Miss Micah couldn't understand Elle in its kitten form. Her eyes widened in surprise when I explained what the bracelet could do. That's amazing. No one else would have anything like that. Branches from spirit trees just break when you bend them. I can't believe one was made into a circle like that, she said, getting heated up. With that, your knights should be protected from the miasma. They'll be able to fight without worrying. The 4 knights in the carriage all relaxed when they heard this. I hope we can plant it soon and keep the miasma out of the area, so I want to do it as soon as possible. Elle nodded. Because I must protect this branch, I cannot purify the miasma. I also want this to be planted quickly. So what happens if we were to get too far away from the new tree? What would happen to Elle? Would he just go back to the origin spirit tree? I don't know. While we were talking, we came close enough to see the imperial capital. It was amazing how we managed a 15-day carriage ride in half a day by flying. Well, it makes sense. Unlike the capital of Chronowise, the imperial capital wasn't enclosed. There are no walls, I asked, getting a nod back from Miss Micah. Since strength is number 1 in Rodzul, the strongest people have lived on the outskirts of the capital. Then they'd show their strength by defeating monsters and criminals who came here. There have never been any walls since they are basically begging to be attacked. So the capital was protected by strong people rather than walls. I was surprised at how different their thoughts were from us back in Chronowise. In the middle of the capital was a strange-looking castle with a round roof and a big dueling stadium. There weren't any high walls around the castle either. How did they protect the emperor then? The same way they protect the city. When I asked, Miss Micah answered again, lifting a finger as she explained, the emperor is the strongest person in Rodzul, so they don't need to be protected. You've got to challenge them to a fair and square duel if you want to fight them. There's absolutely no surprise attacks allowed. What would happen if someone did try it, though? Lord Glenn asked. She grinned. If someone won because they launched a surprise attack, every citizen in the empire would chase them to the ends of the earth and beat them up. Really? I would be very surprised by that. It seemed that despite her soft exterior, Miss Micah liked fighting. Lowering the carriage down into the castle's courtyard, Lord Royce changed back into demi-human form. And once we all got out of the carriage, it disappeared as if it had been waiting. After we'd landed, various people gathered around us. They were all staring at Lord Royce in shock. After a bit of time, the crowd parted and a very large man came through. There were cute round ears poking from his short hair, and his eyes, and his clothes were all brown. It was the current Emperor Bearsley, looking just as he had in the portrait. Royce, huh? He said, glaring at the former emperor. Been a while, huh, Bearsley? Lord Royce was looking down at him, smiling like a demon lord would. I was a little surprised at how different it was from his usual smirk, but it suited him. The hell are you here for? If you've got any complaints, tell me after you win our duel. Oh wait, you won't be winning anything with a body like that, Lord Bearsley laughed loudly, just like a villain in a story. My illness has been cured. What? It wasn't something that could be cured. Stop lying. I mean, you'll see. Yeah, you'll see once we fight. So I challenged the current Emperor Bearsley to a duel. The crowd buzzed with excitement after he announced it. You're in way over your head. I can't retire like this. Most of the people looked happy, but some were averting their gazes and others were fidgeting restlessly. Fine, it's my duty as Emperor to accept any challenge to duels. Let's go to the stadium. At his declaration, the entire crowd headed towards the duel stadium. Just as I was about to join the crowd, Lord Glenn grabbed my hand. Let's hold hands so we don't get separated. I readily agreed since I was a bit scared about all the tall adults around. For some reason there's no miasma around us, someone in the crowd said, triggering a chain of confused muttering from the others. Since we had both the box with the cutting and my spiritual bracelet, the area around us was clear of the dark mist. Some of the people made the connection that our group was in the center of the miasma-free zone and looked at us in shock. I'll be the referee. A well-dressed, dog-eared man announced as we arrived at the stadium, standing between Emperor Bearsley and Lord Royce. The duel will be between the current Emperor and the former Emperor. If there are any objections, speak now. None of the people gathered stepped forward, continuing to just watch. It seems that there are no objections. I will explain the rules. The rules were very simple. You'd lose if you admitted defeat, lost consciousness, or left the bounds of the stadium. The final rule is that the match will be ruled invalid if one side dies. Are you ready? The referee said. Emperor Bearsley transformed into a bear while Lord Royce stayed humanoid. Let's go. Just you try. You convalescent, whatever, word Emperor Bearsley. Oh, that's right. I might just be getting over my illness, but I'm not going to go easy on you, Lord Royce said, smiling his demonic smile with his hands on his hips. The Emperor drew the sword from his hip, standing ready. Start. Emperor Bearsley charged as soon as the referee said the word. You could hear the thunk of his footsteps, so he must have been quite heavy. Lord Royce, on the other hand, stayed exactly where he was, deflecting the sword with one hand while grabbing the bear by the throat and lifting him. Then, he threw him. Far. I was shocked at how easily he was flung. How far is he going to go? While I was there surprised, Emperor Bearsley flew outside of the stadium, landing with a bang. Not that surprising. I'm surprised he didn't go further than that, to be honest. I figured that he would throw him clear out of the capital, considering how big he can be in his dragon form and how strong he probably is. As he did, some people rushed outside. The referee bowed reverently to Lord Royce. Lord Bearsley is out of bounds. The winner is Emperor Royce! As the stadium erupted in cheers, Lord Royce pumped his fist in the air. I'm the Emperor now. From now on, I'm going to increase the number of spirit trees in the country and make it even better. Get ready, he yelled. All at once, the crowd ran to him, gathering around him. Yeah! I cried, nearly crushed by the rushing crowd. That was when Lord Glenn pulled me close, protecting me. My heart sped up here, beating loudly at the sudden gesture. He held me like that for a while as the stampede died down. After that, we started hearing drums and flutes from somewhere. Looking over to where the sounds were coming from, we saw a big palanquin pass overhead. Lord Royce got on it, striking a strange pose before he was carried toward the castle. Strange pose. I wonder what the pose was. I want to see. Was it a Japanese thing? I was gawking, not really understanding what just happened, and Lord Glenn looked down at me. That was a lot, huh? When I nodded, he let me go, grabbed a hold of my hand again. The crowd scattered in all directions, yelling things like, time for a festival! Things are gonna get busy, and we've gotta get ready now. Miss Micah was smiling happily, hands on her hips. Let's all get going to the castle. Staring at the palanquin carrying Lord Royce in the distance, we headed to the direction of the castle. Once we arrived at the castle, someone came to guide us to the meeting room. All the while, Lord Glenn and I kept holding hands. Entering the room, we saw that Lord Royce was sitting in the farthest seat, while various other beastmen surrounded him. They were all speaking to him reverently about something or other. The ones in yellow are civil officials, and the ones in red are with the military, Miss Micah explained from where she stood behind us. After some time, the beastmen finished their conversation, and Lord Royce finally looked up at us. You all must have known, but I was ill. The ones who cured me were Prince Glen Arnold and Lady Chelsea from the neighboring country of Chronowise. If not for them, I wouldn't have been able to retake the throne. Treat them as honored guests. All the officials turned to look at us, each with different expressions. One gave us a short bow, another stayed straight-faced, another smirked, and one even glared down at us in disdain. Other than that, there was one who frowned and another who smiled welcomingly. I started shaking, scared of all the different stares we were getting, but Lord Glenn gave our linked hands a little squeeze. The reminder that I wasn't alone gave me a bit of comfort. Wouldn't someone think that them holding hands would signify something else? I don't know. So how long are you going to have us standing around here? Lord Glenn asked, heaving a big sigh. Sorry about that. Make them feel welcome. At Lord Royce's words, a servant-like beastman reluctantly brought us some chairs. We both sat down, but Miss Micah stayed standing diagonally behind us. Looks like there are a lot more baddies here than there were 3 years ago, she murmured. So we're behind enemy lines, huh? Muttered Lord Glenn quietly. Why are the two of them in the meeting room? First to speak up was a straight-faced, deer-eared civil official. Then a rabbit-eared military official continued frowning. Do you plan to take a play out of Bearsley's book and listen to foreign humans? These two are necessary to the Radzul Empire's recovery. There's no way my sage-level appraisal skill would be wrong. The rabbit-eared official closed his lips tightly, bowing his head at Lord Royce's response. Everyone else have a problem with this? Shouldn't we handle the recovery ourselves instead of relying on inferior humans from other countries? A fox-eared civil official argued, shaking like a leaf as he did. At his words, several others spoke up agreeing. What's a dummy fox like that doing as an official? Bearsley must have appointed him. I can't believe it. I could tell that Miss Micah really didn't like the fox-eared official. Then you can go get more spirit trees for us, Lord Royce told him, resting his chin on his hands. All the spirit trees within our borders have been destroyed, so, and how do you expect us to fix that without relying on other countries? Without the trees, we're not going to get any spirits here to purify the miasma. Your parents must have told you that much when you were a kid. Even orphans know the story. Lord Royce took a deep breath before quietly continuing. Give it a rest. I've no need for people who just want to look down on others and complain without offering any solutions of their own. Get out of my castle. The room went silent at his words, and the fox-eared official, still shaking like a leaf, was thrown out of the meeting room by a soldier. After that, every official who had agreed with him was told to leave as well. In the end, the only ones left were the straight-faced, deer-eared civil official and the rabbit-eared military official. Once all the others were gone, they bowed deeply to both Lord Glenn and me. Finally, some peace and quiet, Lord Royce said, taking a breath. Okay, Interlude 4. Elle and Bearsley. Elle in his kitten form hadn't moved an inch from his spot on the wooden box since the group had left, chrono-wise. Inside said box was the branch to be used for the cutting on which Elle had to constantly use magic to keep fresh. Because of that, he was getting more and more fatigued and was nearing his limit. Really, he wanted to plan it ASAP, but he never said a word, staying patient. Even after the group was brought to Radzul's capital by Dragonform Royce, the box, and by extension Elle himself, was carried by the Guardian Knights. They had also been carrying him in the box while Royce defeated Bearsley and retook his seat as Emperor. It was just when they were about to follow him and the others to the castle. You guys got something good, don't you? Gimme. Uh-oh. The former Emperor Bearsley, the Bearman, stood before them. The group of knights stayed silent, trying to ignore him as they passed, but they were soon surrounded by Imperial citizens. Bearsley was aware that his own actions had brought chaos to the Empire and caused the famine. He had planned to leave before he was made to take responsibility, but the fortune-teller who had stuck with him until the end had said, if you stay in the Empire, all that will be left for you is a life of crawling in the dirt. The wooden box that those knights are carrying holds a very large spirit tree shard. The fact that they are unaffected by the miasma around us is proof. Of that, you would receive a warm welcome in any foreign country. Having been born in a very poor village, Bearsley had lived like that once before and wasn't about to live like that again. Couple this with the added temptation of special treatment in whatever country he ran to. I know you've got some spirit tree in that box. You should hand it over if you value your lives. The Bearman's words put the citizens into predator mode. Did he just say spirit tree? If we had that, our fields, I could give it to the newly born kids. Thanks to all the spirit trees being chopped down, the fields and mountains were withered due to the flood of miasma. Each Empire citizen was given a very tiny shard, but there weren't any for newborn children. To these people fraught with fear for the unknown future, of course they'd go mad at mention of any spirit trees. One beastman swayed unsteadily to the guards, clinging to them. If I had that, I could give it to my daughter. Please give it to me. It was only a second before others joined in. Uh-oh, shit! All the citizens grabbed and clung to the knives, but not a single one tried to take it by force. They all just cried, begging. Because none of the citizens were carrying weapons or attacking the knights, couldn't lift a hand against them. As they stood there paralyzed, the sky suddenly turned dark. It was Bearsley transformed into a massive bear, leaning over them and plucking the backs from their hands! Shit! Not good! Though they tried to take it back, the clinging citizens stopped them in their tracks. Elle, do something! For better or worse, Elle was still on top of the box in this kitten form. All the times this had to happen while I can't use my power, he muttered. Since he was using all his mana to preserve the cutting, he was completely unable to do anything else. As Bearsley walked away, he gradually shrunk. Huh? What's with this kitten? You were the one that carried me away. Can't be a cat person, so I don't understand what it's saying. It doesn't really matter if it's a normal cat. It seems that Bearsley didn't understand the exhausted spirit's words. Finally regaining full humanoid form, he disappeared into the hustle and bustle of the Imperial capital. Shit! Oh no! Is she gonna be able to even do this now? No! Fuck! Elle, we gotta find you! Fuck, 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 fuck. Okay, one thing I was thinking of when this happened is, couldn't Elle just let the thing go bad and then just go back to the spirit tree and they would just have to go back and get another cutting for it? Right? And they could just bring it back here? Right? Couldn't they just do that? It'd be better than letting it get into the hands of Bearsley and whoever else. 6. Disaster. After all the officials other than the deer-eared and rabbit-eared ones were chased out, we sat down again at the table, this time at a distance from which we could actually see each other's faces. Let me introduce them again. This is the younger brother of Corona Wise's king and appraiser, Prince Glen Arnold, and this is Lady Chelsea, the one who saved my life. I stood briefly, giving a curtsy as Lord Royce explained. Honestly, I had given up on thinking you'd be saved. I'm shocked to see your mana levels the same as they were in your heyday. Thank you so much, Lady Chelsea. The previously straight-faced, deer-eared civil official broke out into a smile before bowing deeply. Due to the previous emperor believing in some strange foreign fortune-teller, which ended up harming the country, I doubted the both of you, said the rabbit-eared military official with a frown, apologizing with a bow so deep he smashed his head on the table in front of us. Ouch. Lord Glenn and I looked at each other, both smiling a bit forcedly. Now let's get things started. Lord Royce said... The fuck? All of us to straighten up. Prince Glenn and Lady Chelsea have prepared a spirit tree cutting for us. We'll be going to plant it in a moment, but where should it go? The deer man official bowed deep in thought, resting his hand on his mouth, while the rabbit man official just tilted his head. It'd be best if it was somewhere close enough for you to protect it, the deer man mused, standing and moving to look out the meeting room window. Maybe between here and there... Huh? What's wrong? Oh, I was just surprised to see the previous Emperor Lord Bearsley grow so large that he walked off toward the city. We need to get him to tell us everything he's done over the past year. Send out an order to arrest him, his fake fortune teller, and anyone related to them. Yes. The rabbit-eared military official jumped to action, leaving the room. Come on, catch him quick! Please! After that, Lord Royce and the remaining official discussed things for a while, and was decided the cutting would be planted between the castle and the stadium. Now that that's settled, let's get that thing planted. Hearing that, I looked around. Now that I think of it, none of the knights are here. They were the ones carrying the box for the cutting. Did we get separated somewhere on the way to the castle? Just as I was thinking that, the door opened again. In and walked the rabbit man official and the knights. These people are claiming to be part of His Highness's group, but all the knights' clothing was in tatters and their hair messed up. Your Highness, I apologize. Both the box and the kitten have been taken by the former emperor, reported our knight before collapsing on the ground. Elle's been taken? I stood up shocked. He said he couldn't purify the miasma because he needed to protect the cutting. Wouldn't that mean he couldn't do anything against Lord Bearsley? Oh no, I whispered, gripping my hands together, but when I did that, I noticed my thumbnail sparkled. The shining nail was proof of my contract with Elle. After looking at it for a moment, I felt as if I could somehow tell what direction Elle was in. As I worried about everything, the Guardian Knights had explained what had happened to them. Lord Royce's expression turned grim. It was my fault for leaving you when there was at risk of a riot. I'm sorry. He apologized, bowing to us. Then start the search immediately. He gave the order without giving Lord Glenn or the Knights a chance to interject. It was kind of awkward to say right after he ordered a search, but I raised my hand slightly. What's wrong? Lord Royce asked, looking down at me. I can tell where the cutting is, or rather where Elle is. Everyone looked at me confused. It might be because I'm contracted to him, but it seems I can tell what direction he's in. I continued, closing my eyes and pointing where I felt him from. Elle said he couldn't leave the box, right? Yes, I replied, giving a small nod. Lord Glenn gave a small sigh. I don't want to put you in any danger, but the only thing we can do is rely on you. We've got no choice, said Lord Royce, standing before us, scooping me up in his arms. What? Well, I was surprised. He started walking. Must be tough not realizing your feelings, he muttered as he passed Lord Glenn. I've already noticed. I'd never seen that look on Lord Glenn's face before. I was carried off while I was still in shock. Oh, hopefully they get the box soon. Please. That way, I said, pointing toward where Elle was as I sat on Lord Royce's arm. The rabbit-eared official had already put the call out to arrest Bearsley, so there were lots of soldiers around the capital. They cleared our path so that we could go through quickly. Huh? It's here. Apparently, Elle and the box were still being carried off somewhere. It feels like it's under us, I clarified, pointing to the ground. He's in the tunnels. That's a pain, Lord Royce grumbled, putting his free hand to his chin as he thought. The exit outside the city. He's probably going that way. And so we headed for the exit to the tunnels with a group of soldiers. As we waited quite a far bit away, Lord Bearsley appeared holding the wooden box. Damn it, you could have meowed a bit more, he said, complaining at Elle, who was sitting on the box. Oh no, did he do something to Elle? I was about to jump out, but Lord Roy stopped me. I shouldn't have just mindlessly thrown him. Gotta rake Bearsley over the coals properly this time, he muttered, before looking over to Lord Glenn. You want to do it? For some reason, Lord Glenn was staring at Lord Royce angrily. Yeah, I will, he replied, his voice very low. Elle's important to Lord Glenn too, huh? Glad I nodded to him. I'll keep her safe, don't worry. I'm Lord Royce's pupil after all, Miss Micah said, hugging me tightly as we hid and watched them all. We were a bit far away from Lord Bearsley, but the area was surrounded by soldiers to keep him from running. The door to the tunnels was locked from the inside. He seemed to finally notice both Lord Royce and Lord Glenn when he heard the lock click. What are you doing here? He cried, eyes wide. You're finally here, said Elle, before plopping down on top of the box. Clearly, is he okay? We need to do something for him, quick. Lord Glenn began as if he heard my wish. Icicle Lance. Spears of ice came into being around him before flying quickly towards Lord Bearsley's feet. The beastman managed to dodge them all, but ended up throwing the box as he did. Lord Royce jumped in, catching both the wooden box and the spirit kitten. I'll cure you if you live through this. What did I even do to you? Screamed Lord Bearsley in fear. I'm just taking my anger out on you. Ice wall. Oh, because he didn't get to carry Chelsea around. This time, 3 walls of ice grew from the ground surrounding the bearman. Only his path to Lord Glenn remained unblocked. Ah! Lord Bearsley roared, charging to tackle Lord Glenn's still humanoid. Barrier. An invisible wall appeared around Lord Glenn, repelling Lord Bearsley with a strange ping sound. The former Emperor's back hit one of the ice walls. It sounded the same as the barrier back in Chronowise. Lord Bearsley shakily rose to his feet, drawing the sword from his hip. I went easy on you because you're unarmed, but not anymore. Since you've got your weapon out, I'll be thorough in my beating. After that, Lord Glenn apparently used a lot of different magic to beat him up. Miss Micah covered my eyes partway through, so I only saw a bit, but she said it was really amazing. Glenn's really great with magic. He might even be on my level if we fought, commented Lord Royce. Cure only his external wounds, leaving the pain from any bruises. Cure. It was only after Lord Glenn used his cure skill on Lord Bearsley that Miss Micah stopped hugging me and let go. Bearsley was collapsed on his knees, head hanging. His clothes were ripped up here and there, and his hair was a mess. But all his wounds were healed. He was taken away by some soldiers. At the same time, Lord Glenn, Lord Royce, and Elle with his box came back over to me. The little kitten lay collapsed, sleeping. Is Elle okay? I asked. Lord Glenn used his appraisal skill for me, checking him over. His mana is really low, but he's just sleeping. He's not hurt. Since he was awake when he'd usually be sleeping, he just wasn't able to regenerate his mana. I was finally able to relax a bit when I heard that. Thank goodness. We need to get that cutting planted and let him off the hook as soon as possible. I nodded at his words. On the way back to the castle, Lord Glenn insisted on carrying me for some reason. I can walk on my own, I protested, but he didn't let me down. Lord Royce, who was carrying the box, and Miss Micah, who was walking beside him, only laughed at us. Oh, I was right. Oh, boy. I had to give up and let myself be carried, only for Elle to wake up at the same time. Thank goodness that annoying man is gone, he said, stretching out from on top of the wooden box. What do you mean? The man was terrified the entire time we were in the tunnels and wouldn't stop singing. It was hell, listening to his tone-deaf song that close. The spirit answered, shrugging his little shoulders. That must have been tough, I mumbled. Elle looked at both Lord Glenn and me before shrugging again. Yes, it was, but I'm at my limit. Please plant the cutting soon, he replied, bowing his head. So cute. I leaned over towards him, forgetting I was in Lord Glenn's arms. I don't want to drop you, so hold on tight, said Lord Glenn, hugging me close. He did it so intensely that I squeaked a bit. Let's go back to the castle after planting the cutting, said Lord Royce, struggling to stop himself from laughing. Once we got to just about the middle point between the castle and stadium, he stopped. I'd like it somewhere around here. It was a wide plaza, empty aside from some food carts, a bit away. The spirit tree that I planted outside the Royal Research Institute grew really big, so the resulting one from the cutting would definitely grow big too. I nodded to Lord Royce in agreement, and he had the soldiers herd the citizens away from the immediate area. They watched us from a distance, seemingly very interested in what was going on. Lord Glenn put me down, and Lord Royce handed me the box with the cutting. Elle, who had still been sitting on top of it, moved to my shoulder. I set the box on the ground and took the lid off. Wow, it's so pretty, I heard Miss Micah cry from behind me as I took the sparkling glass-like cutting branch, which is honestly more like a mace, out of the wooden box. Elle whispered to me, you should use your bracelet storage function on the box. I did as he said, wishing for the spirits to hold it for me in advantage. Should I make a hole for it, I asked, only for Elle to shake his head. Just plunge it into the earth. I sat down holding the cutting in both hands before stabbing it into the ground. The moment it shined so brightly that I couldn't keep my eyes open. When I slowly opened them again, the cutting was spreading into branches, rapidly growing. Wow! I looked up, watching as it grew taller and taller, only to nearly fall backwards myself. That's dangerous, Lord Glenn chided me, catching me before I fell. Thank you. While I was thanking him, the spirit tree had grown up to about the height of the Institute's second floor. Looking closely, the tree was emitting a soft light repelling the miasma. It seems the miasma has been pushed away to the surrounding mountains, Elle commented, leaning forward from his perch on my shoulder. It's not hard to breathe anymore. Did the miasma disappear? I think it just can't get close anymore. Whatever the case, it was wrong to cut down the spirit trees. Lord Royce grinned at his citizens' conversations. It should grow slowly from now on. Make sure to protect it, El ordered, acting quite high and mighty. After I backed up a few steps to look up at the tree, something rained down from above. It was red, translucent, and falling like some sort of down. I heard the crowd begin to buzz. It was a very large-chested woman with bright red eyes and scarlet eyes, more beautiful than any being could ever be, and wearing a bright red mermaid dress that was long enough to hide her feet. Hello, my name is Irene. I'm the spirit of fire. Please call me Rain. The translucent red fire spirit Rain gave us an elegant mid-air greeting. It was different from the curtsy, but it was still looked really sophisticated. Her hair was the same kind of bright red as my stepmother and half-sister had, but maybe because of her drooping eyes, she wasn't scary in the least. As I stared at her enchanted, she smiled brightly at me. Oh my, this generation's creator of the spirit tree is so cute, small and cute, she cried, floating over to me and clinging to me. But, of course, since she was see-through, she went right through me. While I was paralyzed in shock, El shouted at Rain from his spot on my shoulder. Stop that, you're bothering Lady Chelsea. He floated away from me, trying to scratch her, but a tiny kitten trying his best to scratch someone was just adorable instead of his intended threat. When I giggled, he stopped. Get with the contracting. All right, I know. I'll contract with our cute little creator. Wait, you're already contracted, the Lord Element. I can't believe it. Rain floated away from me, flying around the spirit tree. The audience cried out in delight. It seemed that they heard the fire spirit's introduction. After flying for a bit, she stopped before me once again, looking quite meek. I was shocked to see that Lord Element was contracted to anyone other than her ladyship, the proxy. That's what makes me think that maybe she's the reincarnated proxy, and that's what's going on? I don't know. Elle looked away as she said that. There's nothing I can do with her then. I'll have to contract with someone else. Who to pick? Would I work? Lord Roy's asked, raising his hand. Rain looked him up and down, thinking, I'm this here Radzol Empire's emperor, Royce. Oh, so you're an emperor, and a member of the longest living race in the world. Lord Royce gave her a confident smile. She'd never be able to guess that he'd been suffering from an illness up until yesterday. Okay, I'll make a contract with you, said before, snapping her fingers. The buzzing crowd suddenly froze completely. Oh, that's right. Back when I was contracted with Elle, he stopped time like this too. It seemed that since I was contracted with the spirit already, I got to watch. I am the spirit who rules over fire, Irene. I will form a contract with you here, she said with a smile, caressing his ringed fingernail. As she did, it turned the same scarlet as her eyes. Done. With another snap of her fingers, she vanished. The sounds of the crowd came back, signaling the end of the contract ceremony. Lord Royce spent a while staring at his ringed fingernail, now scarlet. Call her name and summon her, Elle suggested, still floating. Spirit of Fire, Rain, the dragon man called with no hesitation. As he did, a large red bird flew down from between the leaves of the spirit tree, landing on his shoulder. You called, Lord Royce? I'm going to be rebuilding the Radzol Empire. I'd like for you to help me. As you wish. It looked like Rain's temporary form was that of a large, bright red bird. Her wingspan was about the same as Lord Royce's height. That's different from how Elle looks, huh? Our temporary form changes based on our contractor's mana pool. The reason my form is a small kitten is because your mana pool is also small, Lady Chelsea. My shoulders sagged dejectedly when he said that. It's okay, you're eating lots of delicious food and your mana pool is growing slowly but steadily, Lord Glenn comforted me with his usual gentle smile, patting me on the head. This time we were led to a parlor on our return to the castle. I thank you for planting the spirit tree, Lord Royce said from across the low table after we sat down on comfy sofas. The Empire should be safe for now. I want to be relieved, but the miasma is still spreading rampant throughout places in the country other than the capital. I'd like for you to plant more cuttings. We cannot, Elle refused, before Lord Glenn or I had a chance to open our mouths. As I told you before, branches for cuttings are not so easily made. You said it would take a few years to make a large number. I still think it's the best idea. Elle shook his head again. Back when Lady Chelsea planted the second origin spirit tree, I had also considered planting more spirit trees. I thought it would be best to plant them and call for more high-ranking spirits to purify the miasma, but if there's another way, we should not increase the number of trees. After saying that, Elle asked for Lord Royce to clear the room. You may already know this being a long-lived dragon man, but after giving his preamble, he took a deep breath before saying, with the spirit's permission, travel between spirit trees is possible. Eh? Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Lord Royce was surprised too, so he must not have known after all. You mean like a teleportation circle, I asked, thinking back to the one I'd used back at the Royal Research Institute. Elle nodded. If I was to explain it in depth, it would be someone entering the spirit world through a tree and exiting from a different one, allowing for instantaneous travel over long distances. Wouldn't planting more and allowing for free travel be a good thing, Lord Royce asked, putting a hand to his chin as he thought. Elle in his kitten form drooped dejectedly, shaking his head but not giving an explanation. Rain stepped in to do it for him. Back in the times of the first origin spirit tree, Trees had been planted all over the continent. The people were able to live in convenient abundance, but they also forgot to give thanks, she said with a sigh. Having forgotten to give thanks to the spirits and spirit trees, humanity became arrogant and even tried to oppress us. The proxy became angry and burned the original origin spirit tree down. With the loss of the first tree, Lord Origin was forced to return to the spirit world, and that other spirits gradually returned as well. So to avoid that happening again, you want to use another method than planting more spirit trees if one exists, Lord Glenn confirmed, summarizing what she said. Elle gave him a nod. It's true that people forget to give thanks once they're used to something. I spent my first 100 years as Emperor being a peaceful idiot after all. So, what's this other method, Lord Royce asked. Elle turned looking at me. We could use the seeds that Lady Chelsea creates. I mean, she could make more spirit tree seeds, to be completely fair. She could. She did the first one. After that, we told them about the blue lily seeds I made back in the Sergeant Margraviat. You mean those bright blue flowers that were growing in those wastelands we passed? Miss Micah asked, giving a nod back from Lord Glenn. Oh, you could do that instead. I had made the seeds, but since no one else had seen what happened once they were planted, Lord Glenn explained in detail for the rest of us. They bloom into bright blue flowers, and once they absorb the miasma, they turn into fertilizer. What a revolutionary idea! Rain in her bird form was about to fly off in excitement, but she suddenly froze. The parlor was a big room, but she'd break a vase or something if she spread her wings out. So you can make seeds like that too. You're really amazing, Lady Chelsea. Please make some of those seeds for us, Lord Royce said, bowing to me once again. Wait. This time it was Lord Glenn who spoke before I had a chance to. If we go with the blueprint we made back in the Margraviat, Chelsea will be making blue lily seeds every day for a year. That's a lot of a problem. If I spent years making the same seed, my skill research would be stopped. What should we do? You just need to improve the seeds, my mistress. Lady Chelsea can make any seed she wishes for, Elle said, as if she read my mind. He'd been so sad before, but now he was puffing at his chest proudly. We've improved on existing seeds before, but it'll be a first for us to improve on a new seed she'd made. I nodded. We need to tell Lord Triss the results of our study. Yeah, he'll probably pout about not being here to see it, though. Imagining Lord Triss pouting because he missed it made me break out into a grin. And so we wrote up an improved blueprint. Blue lilies currently bloomed as soon as they were planted, absorbed any miasma in the area, and left one seed as they withered and became fertilizer. Our new and improved seeds would also bud as soon as they were planted, but wouldn't bloom into a flower unless they absorbed miasma. In the event that they hadn't bloomed in 3 days, they would wither and become fertilizer. Once they absorbed miasma and bloomed, they'd drop 10 more seeds, wither and again become fertilizer. Since the blue lilies in the Margravia didn't wither until they sucked up miasma, we made it so they only leave one seed. If they multiply too much, they'd be bad for the ecosystem. So the improved version won't bloom unless it sucks in some miasma, and they'll wither within a few days otherwise, huh? We have to think about what they could do to the other wildlife. Lord Glenn and Lord Royce were discussing the seeds while I read the finished improved blueprint over and over again to memorize the contents. Giving the others a little nod, I cast my skill. I'll make an improved blue lily following the blueprint exactly. Seed creation. A pale blue seed appeared with a light pop. It's apparently called a sky lily. The effects are exactly what we put in the blueprint. Damn, it's neat seeing Lady Chelsea's skill at work. All the seeds she makes are also weird. There's no term for it, but amazing. Embarrassed but getting praised by Lord Royce, I made as many sky lily seeds as I could without fainting. Lord Glenn, Lord Royce, and Miss Micah and I headed outside of the Imperial capital with some soldiers. Since the miasma dispersed when I was near due to my spirit tree bracelet, I had to watch them plant the seeds from far away. They planted them in the wasteland outside the city's spirit tree area of effect, and they bloomed the moment they were in the ground. And the next moment they'd wither, drop more seeds, which were bloomed into even more flowers. As the process happened over and over again, the wasteland was transformed to a pale blue flower field. After that, we all got in the carriage for Lord Royce to bring us back in his dragon form. It's like we're above the sky, I whispered, thinking back to the sky I'd seen as we flew. Miss Micah, who was standing beside me as my guard, started wagging her tail. 7 thanks. I spent another 3 days after that making sky lily seeds without tiring myself out. Since their seeds multiply after blooming, unlike their blue lily cousins, I was told I didn't have to make that many, and so it went by faster than it would have otherwise. While I was busy making seeds, the former Emperor Lord Bearsley's questioning had finished. It seemed that he might have been negatively affected by the miasma. According to him, the moment the spirit tree cutting was planted, it was as if a fog lifted. When questioning, he readily told them everything that happened since he became Emperor, leaving nothing out. He also said that the fake fortune teller had been the one to tell him he should steal the cutting, saying that he'd get preferential treatment in other countries because of it. We still had no idea where the fake fortune teller had gone afterward. From the man's personality, Lord Royce guessed that he might have already left the capital and headed outside the country. We have no idea what a weirdo like that may do, so please be careful, Reen said, nuzzling me. So I planted the cutting and made lots of sky lily seeds. Is there anything else? I asked Lord Glenn, only for him to shake his head. We can head back to Chronowise soon. Alright, I replied with a nod. It would take years for all of the miasma in the Rodzol Empire to be absorbed by the flowers. I would have liked to see it happen, but I can come back to the Rodzol's capital via the tree to see it after returning home. Can you make it a little time for me once we get back to the Rare Research Institute, he asked, looking kind of meek. I nodded again, not seeing any reason to refuse, and he gave me a happy smile different from his usual one. And for some reason, it made my heart squeeze painfully. I couldn't stop myself from wanting to know what he wanted to talk about immediately, so I asked, can we talk now instead? While I started thinking of how to answer, Miss Micah came to the guest room to lead us to the parlor. When we arrived, Lord Royce, the deer-eared official, and the rabbit-eared official were all there greeting us with smiles. I wanted to thank you again, Lord Royce said, standing as Lord Glenn and I sat on the sofa. The officials stood at the same time. I thank you for planting the spirit tree cutting for the Rodzol Empire. All the men bow to us. Our countries will have to discuss reparations for Chronowise sending their research fellows at a later time, and I will give what is best. But other than that, I would like to thank Lady Chelsea personally as well. Not knowing what I should do, I looked over at Lord Glenn for help, but he just smiled gently at me. So, what would you like? Lord Royce asked with a grin, sitting directly in front of me. Huh? I had nothing I wanted. I'd already been taken from the barony and given food, clothing, and a place to live. Since I'd become a research fellow, I didn't need a place to work or money either. As I sat there worrying about how to answer, Elle hopped up onto my shoulder in his kitten form. Lady Chelsea frequently overuses her mana and faints. Would you have any items that could increase her mana pool? Does something like that handy actually exist? I looked around the others in shock, but they all were seemingly racking their brains. That probably meant that it didn't. After thinking for a while, Lord Royce popped his fist onto his other palm. I'll give you Micah then. What? Miss Micah isn't a thing! How can you give me her? While I worried, Lord Royce looked at me with a devilishly daring smile and a smirk on his face. Micah's a great chef, so she should be great for increasing your mana pool too. And Lord Glenn would love this too! Oh wait, he can't get the food yet! I thought back to when we ate her cooking to celebrate Lord Royce's recovery. It was incredibly delicious, and I thought it would help my mana pool. I love Chelsea, and I've wanted to try foreign food, so that'd be great. I'd love to go with you, Miss Micah said, sitting down right beside me and meeting my gaze. She seemed worried since her tail was all puffed up. Miss Micah isn't a thing, so I can't accept her as a gift. But if she would come along as a chef, I would be very happy. I replied, only to get a gentle pat on the head from Lord Glenn. Yay! I've been sick of taking care of Lord Royce. If I'm going to serve anyone, I want it to be a cute girl. The foxhorn raised both her hands, cheering. Aww! That's not nice. Lord Royce had a very odd look on his face when she said that. It was angry, sad, annoyed, happy. A myriad of emotions packed into a smile. I'm kidding! I had to get back at you for treating me like a thing to give, she said, sticking her tongue at it, laughing. Everyone else laughed too. Okay, she doesn't feel that way. After our talks had finished and I returned to my guest room, the fire spirit ring came to me in her bright red bird form. The only other people around were the guardian knights. Elle was over in Lord Glenn's room. I've got something I must tell you, Lady Chelsea. What's wrong? I asked, confused. Rain lifted one of her wings and gestured toward the bracelet on my wrist. The spirits in charge of your personal storage room are upset that you haven't asked for their help. Thinking back, I hadn't used it once since being told how it worked and put up my bag of cookies inside. Oh, I'm sorry. They don't want you to apologize. I'd just like for you to use it. The spirit said, bringing out paper and a pen. Seeing as how it must be difficult for you to think of physical things to put inside, I've thought of an alternative usage method. Please correspond with me. Correspond? I'll give you the spirits in charge of your storage room letters for you from myself. I'd like you to read them and send me letters back. So it's just writing letters. Yes. Though I read, I hadn't had many chances to actually write anything myself. Since my blueprints were basically the only thing I wrote out, I really wanted to try letters. Is it okay if my handwriting is messy? You can use your letters to practice. Okay, I'll write you letters then. Hearing my response, Rain started spreading her wings happily, but held herself back when she realized had she spread them fully, the vase next to us would have definitely been broken. If you find yourself too busy to send any letters, you can leave a message for the spirits. Please do so. After that, she told me about how I could send items through my bracelet and give the spirits things as gifts. That's all kinds of things I didn't know about this. You may also use the spirit trees to travel to the spirit world. Really? She gave me a small sigh when I asked. Lord Element really should have been the one to explain things like this to you. He's such a typical useless man, she murmured, lowering her tone. By going to the spirit world, you can travel between spirit trees. You would be able to go from Rodzol to Chronowise in an instant. I'd heard Elle talk about that before, but no one mentioned that I could do that, so I wasn't sure what I should do. Seeing my worried expression, Rain shook her head. I'm not asking you to force yourself to use it. I'd just like for you to remember that if there's ever a time you're forced to evacuate Chronowise, you can escape to Rodzol. I understand that she was just worried about my safety. I nodded. Yeah, just in case. Going home? The next day we were to board a carriage and return to Chronowise. Unlike how you came, I'm not going to be able to escort you to the border. I apologize. You've got a lot on your plate now that you're Emperor again. Don't worry about it. While Lord Royce and Lord Glenn spoke, an argument was breaking out between Rain the Bright Red Bird and Elle the Silver Kitten. Why won't you meet with the proxy? We were never contracted, so I do not know where she is. Now that you mention it, you were forced back to the spirit world automatically when the origin tree began to burn, weren't you? Rain said, nodding to herself. The proxy had continued living in the manor near the origin tree after it turned to ash. She might still be there. Not one person told me that back in the spirit world. We were all under the impression you knew, she laughed. Then you must not know about the barrier race around the demonic force either, do you? No, I do not. Tell me in detail. I've got no choice, have I? Once the origin spirit tree burned, the proxy said that she would like to live in peace and asked for a barrier to be raised, the spirit said, raising her wings happily. The proxy rarely ever asked for anything, so the other three great spirits and I fought over who could raise the best one. Hearing the spirits' conversation, Lord Glenn and Lord Royce stopped their own listening in. That's why you would need to call one of the other great spirits to dispel the barrier if you got to see her. After saying that, she realized she was being watched and screamed, whatever the case, go see her and clear up your misunderstanding. The bird-formed spirit then flew up high into the sky. Though Elle heaved a great sigh, he didn't try to follow her. What did she mean by misunderstanding, I tried asking, but he only shook his head, staying silent. I'm guessing that because he didn't go and see her this whole time, maybe she's feeling upset that he didn't go see her. I don't know. Once we boarded the carriage and headed out, most of the scenery we passed was dried up land. It made me feel awful. The miasma would all be absorbed by the sky lilies in a few years. And what would happen to the rest of the land? I looked between the view from the window down to my lap as I worried. After doing that a few times, Lord Glenn spoke up from his spot across from me. I don't know what you're thinking if you don't put it into words. What's on your mind and what do you want to do? Hesitating for a moment, I finally said what I'd thought many times since we'd arrived. I'd like to make some seeds for the people suffering from the famine to use for food. He gave me a slightly strained smile before patting me on the head. I could see Miss Micah's eyes also sparkling beside me. What kind of seed would you make? Pumpkin. The moment I said that, her tail started wagging. Even the skin is edible when they're full of nutrients. If you simmer them into a soup, then even little kids can eat them. That'd be great. It's also good how you can even eat the insides of the seeds. They're delicious when lightly roasted. Every seed you make sprouts and grows. If the seeds are edible too, the chances of them growing out of control is low. And if it's a common type of seed, it probably wouldn't have any great influence. That should be fine. With a small smile, I said, I thought you'd tell me not to. Thank you. After saying that, I made as many pumpkin seeds as I could without tiring myself out. Using my bracelet, I stored the seeds I made in the spirit world. We decided to plant them at the rest stops along the way. Though they were used for letting the horses rest now, they had been used as non-aggression grounds in the past, where the beastmen fighting between themselves weren't allowed to fight. Even today, it was an unspoken rule that battles were forbidden there. Before the famine hit, the rest stops had different fruits growing every season. Since everyone was allowed to eat what grew there, they'd be the best places to plant the pumpkins. Huh? A while later, it was decided we'd take a break for the horses. There was a river flowing near the rest stop, but there was absolutely no greenery. Even the trees were dead and leafless. The edge of the rest stop is over there, Miss Micah said, pointing. The three of us walked to where she'd said, Please give me back 3 pumpkin seeds, I whispered, just for them to pop back out of storage. I caught them before they fell and gave one each to both Lord Glenn and Miss Micah. Lord Glenn nodded while the foxwoman wagged her tail. We all stuck our seeds in cracks in the dry ground. Please let this help the people suffering from the famine. I grasped my hands together, praying to the earth gods. As I did, the seeds sprouted, vines stretching out around them. These are going to be fully grown pretty fast. He was right, because there were full-grown pumpkins by the time we left. Miss Micah picked one up before hopping in the carriage. Afterwards, we planted pumpkins every time we stopped to rest, and Miss Micah showed off to the fully grown pumpkin in the inns we stayed at. The next day, people would head to the rest stops and share the pumpkins with each other. I saw it happening a few times. News of the rest stop pumpkin fields had also reached the capital, according to the letter I got from Reen through my bracelet. She also attached a letter to Lord Glenn from Lord Royce. He is officially requesting for the Kingdom of Chronowise to send food and to help with the famine. I've got to get back to the real capital ASAP to tell my brother, muttered Lord Glenn. 10 days had passed since we left Lord Royce and Reen, and we were another 3 days from the border where the incident occurred. We had planted the pumpkin seeds and were chatting with the knights and soldiers who were accompanying us when a man dressed in all black appeared out of nowhere. Is this the fortune teller? But there hadn't been anyone walking around, had there? The knights and soldiers must have been thinking the same thing, because they immediately went on the alert. I looked at the man suspiciously. Our eyes met. I found you! He screeched as his face morphed into a terrifying smile. Lord Glenn quickly stood up from where he was sitting and moved between the man and me, blocking me from view. Ah, Our Lady the Proxy, I found the girl that you said. You would never forgive if I got rid of the girl. Your wish will come true. It will, won't it? I'm very confused. Okay, so my theory is complete bumpkiss, essentially. I'm assuming, unless this guy is full of shit. Babbling nonsense, the man slammed something onto the ground. Whatever it was, spitting out smoke. With this, she will look at me. I don't care what might happen as long as she opens her heart to me. Do not speak of the proxy like that, screamed Elle as the man cackled, returning to his spirit form. His silver hair, long enough to brush the ground, was puffed out, and I could tell how angry he was. Could you be the spirit who betrayed her? Elle's eyes widened. I did not betray her. Yes, silver hair, silver eyes, long hair just as her lady, the proxy's attendant, said, I'll have you, and the girl disappear. He screamed again and the smoke cleared, having lots of huge scorpions around us. I froze, eyes wide open in shock. What are monsters doing at the rest stop? Miss Micah yelled. The soldiers and knights all drew their swords, getting ready to fight. These are sand scorpions. They're weak to water. They've got venom in their tails, but the rest of them is apparently delicious, Lord Glenn said, using his appraisal skill to tell us the monster's traits. I thought I saw the old soldier's eyes flash when Lord Glenn had called them delicious. Now, go, my scorpions! At the man's command, the sand scorpions came at us hissing. Come, thunder! Spirit Elf screamed, raising bolts down onto the scorpions. Thanks to that, their movements slowed. That was when the knights and soldiers started attacking. Barrier! A scorpion had slipped away from the rest to charge at me, and Lord Glenn stopped it with magic. Next, Miss Micah screamed, pulling cookie knives from her item box. I'm going to cook you up good! She started chopping up the scorpions. More sand scorpions appeared and charged at us from the opposite direction, and Lord Glenn got them with magic too. Water bullet, he cast, summoning small orbs of water to shoot through them. Each one that fell was then butchered by Miss Micah, while the soldiers quickly set up a wood stove for cooking. What the fuck? You're in a battle! Don't worry about that right now! The chef pulled a large cauldron from her item box, starting to boil the scorpion meat. What the fuck is going on? A little bit away, the knights had apprehended the man who summoned them, slapping a mana-stealing bracelet on his wrist. Now that I'm getting a good look at him, that guy is the very same fake fortune teller that tricked Lord Bearsley, called out Miss Micah, still stirring her cauldron. Lord Glenn's gaze moved to above the fake fortune teller's head as he murmured, seems like it. Class, swindler, worshipper of the proxy, driven by envy, has a blessing called Ash of the Spirit Tree of Origin. Everything matches what Roy's told me. What? You have sage-level appraisal too? The fake fortune teller's eyes widened at Lord Glenn's words. Ash of the Spirit Tree of Origin's effect is gaining the ability to teleport and transfer and protection from the effects of the miasma. But he can't use any of that now that his mana has been sealed. You could just hear the fake fortune teller's teeth grinding as he listened. While everyone was discussing what to do with the man, we all heard a loud sound from the sky. Looking out, there was a huge black snake-like thing flying up above. It's Lord Roy's. He's just a lot bigger than usual, Miss Micah explained. The Emperor was a few times larger than he'd been when he carried us in the carriage. When he noticed us, he slowly flew down. He shrank as he descended and changed into humanoid form upon landing. I rushed out when Rain told me something was up. I nodded at him, and then my bracelet suddenly started shining before a red bird came flying out. Or shaking before a red bird came flying out. Lady Chelsea, are you all right? Rena asked, spreading her wings and enveloping me with them. Why are you here? The spirits in charge of your storage room told me that you were in danger. I looked down at my bracelet to see that it was glimmering. It looked like you came out of my bracelet. A great spirit like me can do that if we get serious, but it seems we weren't needed, she muttered, looking around. While she and I were talking, Lord Royce was getting a detailed report from the soldiers on what happened. His brow furrowed and head tilted a few times as he listened. Once he heard everything, he looked over at the fake fortune teller. Eek! The man shrieked, unable to handle the dragon man's gaze. We should hear the deed straight from the horse's mouth. Micah, do it. Okay, I guess. Leaving the stirring to a nearby soldier, Miss Micah moved in front of the fake fortune teller. The man looked relieved when Lord Royce stepped back. Micah will now begin her interrogation. Please answer in detail, the foxwoman said, with a very different tone than usual, staring straight at the fake fortune teller. Why did you attack us? Because the pink-haired girl was with you, the man said, before looking shocked. Why did I... He muttered, because you can't lie, essentially. Why did you want to attack her? Her lady, the proxy who we worship, saw her in a magic mirror and whispered, unforgivable, so I sought to kill the girl. The man stared and shaking. Her lady, the proxy. So the one that he worships. Why does she hate Chelsea? What has she done to her? Lord Royce gave a devilishly bold grin, explaining, Micah's got a sage-level interrogation skill. When she uses it, the subject has to answer her questions. Hard to take, isn't it? While he cackled, Miss Micah continued asking questions. Where is the proxy? She lives in a large manor at the center of the demonic forest with her male attendant and those who worship her. Did she tell you to kill the girl? No. Then why did you try? I thought that if I erased the girl she said she couldn't forgive, the proxy would become closer to me than her attendant. Then maybe she would love me, the fake fortune teller said before bursting into tears. Please stop. Don't expose my heart anymore. Lord Royce shook his head. Miss Micah heaved a big sigh before continuing her questioning. How did you get the sand scorpions? The proxy's attendant gave them to me. I didn't know where he got them. And how did you tame them? By giving them their favorite food. I end my interrogation here, Miss Micah said, nearly fainting immediately after. Lord Royce caught her. Out of mana, huh? Good job, Micah. I'm not completely out, she replied weakly, back to her usual tone. Looks like interrogation takes a lot of mana to use, muttered Lord Glenn, looking as if he had mixed feelings on it. I can get him to tell me the rest back at the castle. Though we still had questions, Lord Royce carried the man off to the Imperial Castle. That night, I thought about what had happened earlier today in my bed at the inn. While I was running around trying to sleep, Miss Micah whispered to me from the other bed, Can you not sleep? I'm sorry for waking you. Oh, it's fine. Let's have a bit of a chat then, she said, picking up her pillow and moving over to my bed. I never slept with anyone before, so I was surprised. Let me just wiggle in here. We gotta talk quietly since it's late. My bed is so far away, it's better to talk like this. I nodded. She was right. So what are you worrying about? She whispered, facing upward. I turned to do the same and told her what I was thinking. Back when the fake fortune teller attacked us with monsters, I didn't do anything. I was just protected. Miss Micah nodded, urging me to continue. I was upset with myself for not being useful. You were amazing fighting like that. Well, I wasn't fighting. Sand scorpions are edible and delicious, so I just used my cooking skill to prepare them. Now that I thought back to it, she looked like she was butchering them more than anything. It's not useful at all if you can't eat the monster you're battling. But once the fight is over, I cook something to cheer everyone up. People behind the scenes are important too, you know. I never thought of anyone working behind the scenes. Is there something even I could do, I asked. Yep, she said, turning to look at me. You could do anything with that skill of yours. Huh? With seed creation? For example, you could make a seed that creates a barrier only while it's blooming. That's true, since I can make anything I wish for. Other than that, you can make one that flashes when you drop it on the ground to blind your attacker. I turned on my side to look back at her. After that, we chatted for a while about possible seeds. With a single thought, I can make a seed that produces water, or turns into a cup, or even makes a bed. I really could make just about anything. You could, yeah. So cute. We could talk to everyone and think of a blueprint in the morning once we get up, Miss Micah said before turning to look up again. I've got a question for you, though, Chelsea. Yes? Have you ever met the proxy? Never, I responded immediately. She groaned. It's weird how she can't forgive you when she's never met you before. I really can't think of why. Only thing I can think of is maybe because she's contracted to Elle, and maybe the proxy had feelings for Elle back in the day, and those were never reciprocated because he's a dum-dum. And she's mad about that. That's the only thing I could think of. It's really bothering me, enough that I want to meet her and ask her directly. Yeah, I would want to know too. In the end, we both fell asleep before we knew it, still not understanding anything about the proxy. Okay, I think I'm going to go on ahead and end this one off here. I'll see you guys in the next video.